Good morning, or good morning. Is it morning? Evening? That goes to show where my head is at. Hello, everyone, and welcome this evening. My name is James Herbert. For anybody who doesn't know me, I am the president of the University of New England, which is the proud home of our newest college, the College of Business. And I am so happy to be the first to welcome you to tonight's event. This is the inaugural event of the Spark series, and I'm super pleased that we're able to host this, and very happy that we have a really esteemed panel of speakers tonight. And why don't we give it up for the speakers right now? We're going to introduce them in a few minutes. So I'll save the introductions for them for just a few minutes, but I really appreciate you all coming and joining us. And you know, this is a really interesting topic. How did Portland, Maine become the top minor league sports center in the nation? This is like fascinating, and so it's a great conversation. And the fact that they're here to talk to our students, to all of us really, but especially our students, about the real world and life in the real world, it exemplifies what we're trying to do here at UNE, which is really double down on experiential learning outside the classroom, but in a way that marries it to what happens inside the classroom. It's not enough to just have a bunch of great internship programs that are disconnected from what's happening in the classroom. We want to marry those two things together so they're really intimately intertwined. And what a better way to kick that off than to hear from people out in the real world that our students can learn from how things actually operate and connect that to what they're learning in the classroom. So this program that we have of intimately connecting what happens in the classroom, which is already geared to be market aligned, with what happens outside the classroom, is one of the reasons why at UNE we are known for our workforce development efforts and the success of our graduates right after they finish going into the workforce. Our goal is to prepare students so that when they enter the workforce on day one, they're ready. They can hit the ground running. And we do that by trying to we tell them we want them to start their professional career while they are still students. And it's working. Already it's working. We've been ranked by Zippia for, I think it's 5 years in a row now, as the #1 university for job placements in Maine. So in Maine, yeah, give it up, thank you. So the highest job placement rate in the state of Maine. And, you know, we just need to make sure the folks up the road, there's some little colleges up the road where they're called Bowdoin or something like that. Colby, I heard something about that, but we outperformed them. And even more impressive, frankly, is the Brookings Institute, which did a study. And essentially, I'm going to get a little nerdy here, so bear with me, but they do regression equations where they look at students' input, where they're coming in from, family earnings, SAT scores, that sort of thing, and they project where they're going to end up in terms of their post-graduation earnings, right, career earnings. And then you can do a regression line, right? You're going to improve their earning capacity, and so you take that average regression line, do a separate regression line for each college or university, take the average, and then you can look at the deviation from that average. So is your college adding more value to career earnings or adding less value compared to the mean? And guess what? Guess which university in the state of Maine adds the most value to career earnings for the students? UNE. So it's already working what we're doing, but we're going to double down in that. And we're not satisfied. We're not content with where we are now. We want to actually double down and create even better opportunities for our students. So I'm just so pleased to have you all here for this inaugural session. I also want to give a shout out to a very special person. We have a UNE trustee in the room, Fran Gerard. So thank you very much, Fran, for joining us this evening. One of my favorite people, and she's here. So now I'm going to introduce another one of my favorite people, the provost of UNE, Gwen Mahon. And Gwen's been with us for a couple years, and she exemplifies the expression of big things come in small packages, right, Gwen? But she is amazing. And so I'm going to let Gwen then in turn introduce our dean. So thank you, Gwen.
Good evening, everybody. I am just so excited for tonight's event, and I have the pleasure of introducing our inaugural Dean of the College of Business, Norm O'Reilly. And I want to say I so enjoyed meeting the panelists earlier, and I'm so thankful for you joining us tonight. I'm very excited for the upcoming panel. So Norm actually just joined us. It's just over 6 months ago, and I cannot believe that. He joined on Canada Day, which was quite significant. It was July 1st. Norm and I share a Canadian heritage. So he started on Canada Day on July 1st. It's just been 6 months. And in the room here, we have a number of his faculty and students. And I can tell you, they are doing amazing things. I cannot believe we're at 6 months and we're here. So I actually want to do a round of applause for Norm, the faculty, and the students here tonight. And Norm is recognized globally as one of the leading scholars in the business of sport, so it's kind of fitting that this is our first in the series, the topic tonight. And without further ado, I'd like to bring Norm up to the stage to introduce our moderator.
Thanks, everybody. Another talking head, but we're going to ask everyone to our panelists to come up, and I'm just going to say a couple of quick words and introduce our moderator. So I'm Norm, as you heard from Gwen. I'm the Dean of the College of Business, and we've got big plans. Some of our faculty are in the room that were from the pre-existing programs. We're hiring new faculty. We're launching 3 centers, including the Center for Sport and Business Innovation, which is behind tonight's event. So Connor Blake over here, I want to recognize Connor, who's put on tonight's event. Ava Emery back here is my right hand in the Dean's office. She's had a huge role in tonight's event. And also Dr. Kieran Gordon, who reads our sport management program, is in the room. I can't see him. There he is. There you are. Thank you, sir. So I want to connect all of them. So this is our first of many. The Spark series, as the president said. We're going to do one each semester, and we're hoping it's going to be a big, impactful event like tonight. So now the last thing that I have to do is introduce my good friend, Rick Burton. So Rick is the David Falk Professor at Syracuse University. We worked together. That's where we met, and we've built this co-authorship, which is now pushing 2 decades. We've written many books together. We write for Sport Business Journal, and one of their key columnists is here. David Falk, if you don't know, is Michael Jordan's agent, so he's named after that. So very, very prestigious position. He's not a traditional academic. He's been at it for a little while, but before that, he was the commissioner of a professional sports league, like some of these other gentlemen have been involved with, the Australian Basketball League. He was the chief marketing officer for the United States Olympic Committee. He worked in agencies. He worked for Miller. He's got an extraordinary background, and we're very lucky to have him. So let's welcome Rick to the stage, and he will take over the panel.
Thank you very much. As most members of my family, and they are Canadian, tell me, highly overrated. So it is an incredible pleasure to be here tonight and to be here for this initial Spark series and to have so many of you come out and be with us, and just really excited for this celebration to happen. President, thank you for being with us tonight. The Provost, Norm, thank you so much for everything that you're doing for the university. And I think a big part of tonight's reason is to celebrate Portland. And I think in order to do that, we need to best understand the fabric of what makes this city special. And I think that so many of the people that are sitting up here on the panel that I'll get around to introducing in a minute are a big part of why Portland was chosen by Sports Business Journal as the #1 minor league town in America. I'm tempted to say of all the minor league cities in the world, you are the minorest. But I think there's something to be said for the fact that Portland went from, and this is David's research, and we'll get into this in a minute, Portland went from number 71 in 2022 to number 1 in 2024. It made a 70-position jump in 2 years, which speaks a lot to the teams that are a part of this community. And it suggests to me that the only thing I can compare it to is Kelly Clarkson's song went from number 97. The song was My Life Would Suck Without You. It went from number 97 to number 1 in 2009 on the Billboard charts. So got a great panel for you tonight, and here's what we've got in store for you. The lineup includes a head of research, a VP, a president, a CEO, a founder, and an alternate governor. So we have brought to you, I think, from your community, a number of executives who are going to have that ability to speak with authority about what's going on in this community and why Portland deserved to be number one against all these other cities in the country. I'm going to do the introduction somewhat in an alphabetical order because they fell into this really nice structuring. We have David Broughton, who's the head of research from SBJ, Chris Cameron, the B, the C, DeJuan Eubanks, the D and the E, the G is Adam Goldberg, and then we have GHJ, which is Gabe Hoffman Johnson. So we have this great panel that has an alphabetical structure to it. Let me start with David, who's to my immediate left, head of SBJ Research. You've been with the magazine since year one. He annually conducts a data-driven research that actually looks at all the minor league cities in the country, and he'll get into some of the specifics of that, but one of the things is that if you have the highest level professional team, it eliminates you as a minor league city. So you have to only have minor league teams to be in this ranking. The C is Chris Cameron. I got to find Chris right here next to me. VP of Communications and Fan Experience for the Portland Sea Dogs. That's going to give us an ability to talk about baseball, which is kind of our April to September sport. Although in April, and he was saying earlier, Chris was saying that you had 2 feet of snow one day on opening day. So you folks being Mainers, or I expect most of you are Mainers, 2 feet of snow would not have been a big issue. But what was interesting to me was that you sent the staff out to build snowmen in the positions that would have been played had baseball been played that day. DeJuan Eubanks, down at the end, with the Maine Celtics, the president. He's been with them since their inception in 2009, a former member of the Harlem Globetrotters. I'm going to give each of them a chance to talk a little bit about themselves, but I just want to give you the essence of who's here. Adam Goldberg, the CEO and the alternate governor for the Maine Mariners, which is your hockey team, and this is a great hockey state. And down at the far end, he was walking, and then someone handed him gum, and he's now dealing with a broken leg. Gabe Hoffman Johnson, the founder and Chief Community Officer for the Portland Hearts of Pride. So would you just welcome this group from me by giving them a warm Maine welcome. Thank you. I promised the group off stage that I would not do long, boring introductions of them, that they would have to do their own. So, David, I'm going to let you go first. What do you want this group to know about you?
Thanks. It'll be short and boring, not long and boring. Been with Sports Business Journal. Today is day one of my 27th season there, and it's been glorious every single day working in the media. That was a joke. So I grew up in Vermont. And what I tell people is it was geographically right in between ballpark heaven and hell, because I would go to Fenway Park every year growing up and Olympic Stadium in Montreal every year growing up. You can figure out which one's heaven, which one's hell. And I have been told that I'm the only journalist in the world who has piloted 3 different blimps during sporting events. No, there's no bathroom up there. And I was a minor league mascot during one game, and yes, it's really hot in there.
There you go.
That's all I got.
Fantastic. Chris Cameron, what should we know about you?
This will be my 29th season
29
with the...
and 29.
Yes.
We got some veterans here.
My first job with the Sea Dogs was pouring sodas and selling hot dogs. So I tell people it's proof you can start at the very bottom of an organization and with a lot of hard work, work your way up towards the top. And I am a Mainer. I grew up in Brunswick. Cumberland is my home now, and very proud for Portland to receive this honor and looking forward to welcoming fans out to the ballpark. It's just 35 days until opening day, so warmer weather is coming, I promise.
Hope so. DeJuan Eubanks.
Well, you already gave away the interesting thing about me. So,
Yeah, well, there's gotta be some
DeJuan
other
Eubanks.
things.
Yeah, not enough time tonight to go through all that. So, DeJuan Eubanks, I've been in Maine for 20 years. I, too, would like to consider myself a Mainer as long as I've been in one place, but I truly enjoy the city, if you heard me speak before. Been with the team for 16 years, and so truly enjoyed, and also enjoy the fact that we're part of the world champions 18 times over, in the NBA. And so happy that we can bring that brand essence to this community and bring joy.
And you're not wearing your championship ring that the Celtics gave you, right?
It's in my pocket.
All right, all right. Adam Goldberg, what do you want to say?
Yeah, this is 19th year all in minor league sports. So born and raised in New Jersey. Maine is state number 8 for me. I showed up as the team was announced in 2017, so I've been here for the entire Mariners history, the second iteration of Mariners. But yeah, I just love minor league sports, so I've carved out a career for myself here. I've worked in baseball in Maryland, hockey in Philadelphia, baseball in Memphis, hockey in Hartford, and now hockey up here. My claim to fame is I was Mr. Bratwurst in the sausage race at the Milwaukee Brewers while I was at college. So.
That is a claim to fame. And down at the far end, not yet in a boot, but getting closer by the day, Gabe?
Yeah, Gabe Hoffman-Johnson, founder of Hearts of Pine. This will be my first year working in professional sports. Yeah, I consider myself a community builder, maybe more so than a professional sports executive. Raised by soccer, and social impact is basically my background. I love what the game of soccer is as a player, as a fan. I love what it can do. I love what sports can do in terms of community impact and catalyzing so much more than just the games that fans come to. So that's my passion point, and it's been 4 or 5 years of working to bring a professional soccer club to Maine, and really excited to kick off in the next month or two here.
Soccer, for those of you who maybe didn't grow up with it or don't follow it really closely, is just on a comet ride kind of interest and excitement. The United States will host the FIFA Club World Cup in 2025, and it will host the FIFA World Cup in 2026. And we think soccer is so much important that Norm and I have a new book coming out on Major League Soccer that'll be released at the end of April, early May. And hopefully that'll be an excuse for me to come back and for us to maybe do a book signing. I'm going to apologize in advance that this entire panel is all male because it should have females up here, and I'm going to make sure that we talk about female sports, women's sport, which is just growing massively, and I'm going to get the panel to talk a little bit about the role of women's sports in minor league sports. But let's start with David. This magazine, and there are some extra copies in the green room, which none of you can get into, but there are extra copies of this magazine, which came out in October of 2024, which said, with 4 vibrant franchises and a strong New England attitude, Portland is #1 in our 10th minor league rankings. And then the magazine gave 10 pages to David, 7 of which were all based on what was going on in Portland, which I just think is this amazing media visibility for this town, and I think to benefit really ultimately the University of New England and this new business school. So, David, let's go a little bit into the research and how you landed on Portland.
Sure. So this is, as you said, the 10th time. I do it every other year, not every year, because there's no way I'd be doing this every year. It's a massive data project. I take all the attendance for every minor league team, about 200 different markets in the country, index them against the changes in population in all those markets, the changes in economic marketplace, inflation, people moving in, moving out. So it's indexed against a lot of economic factors. And you also get points for maintaining or building new buildings. And if you have a referendum and your voters vote yes or no, that plays into effect too. So really what it is a measure of how much minor league sports teams support the market and how much the market supports the teams. It's very much a measure of the strength of the community and the entire ecosystem of the minor leagues in the market. So this is about 200 markets each year. We're talking about over a 60-year period of measurement. That's about 200 million minor league fans. If you have a major league team, like you said, so I live in Charlotte. Charlotte has one of the greatest minor league ballparks in the country. It's right downtown. It's 2 blocks from my office. But we also have multiple major league teams, so Charlotte's not considered. But Portland indexed well over everything. And I don't know, when I'm running the numbers, I don't know until I get to the end and all the numbers are in and I hit sort. And Portland came on top and I said, I need to make some phone calls. So, which I do every time. Charleston, South Carolina was the #1 2 years before that. Same thing. I mean, most of the markets before that were, you could see, couldn't until they were #1, James Earl Jones coming out of Casco Bay and saying, if you build it, they will come. But the first versions, Fort Wayne, Des Moines, Grand Rapids, Hershey, Pennsylvania, really historically strong minor league markets. So when Charleston won in 2022 and Portland won a few months ago, it really showed a changing dynamic in the entire world of minor league sports. Not just baseball, hockey, soccer, but the entire dynamic of minor league sports is changing. And I mean, Portland #1 wouldn't have happened 5 years ago.
It would be cheesy for me to ask you to give yourselves a hand, which I'm not going to do, but it really is a great anointment. And so I want to ask the panelists, and Dewan, I'll start with you. We'll go two. We'll jump over the two of us and go two this way. Talk a little bit about your sense of the state of minor league sports, and it can be specific to what you see with the Celtics, or it can be, you know, a broader understanding, because there'll be people in the room who are sports fans but don't ever have to look at the business of minor league sports. And I think that it's a fascinating one.
It is. And I can speak to not just basketball, but when we talk about minor league sports in general, it's entertainment. And, you know, just what you were saying about being cheesy, the reason we exist, but more importantly, the reason for our success is how we connect to the community and how that community connects to us. And it's not surprising to me for us to be sitting in this position as a community because of the sports teams that we do have here and the community essence that we bring, you know. And that's something that's very unique to minor league sports. You can have fun, you can be gregarious, but you also can be sensitive to the community and be flexible to mold to what's taking place in your environment. And so that, to me, is the essence of minor league sports. And this community, meaning the state of Maine, does a great job of supporting in both ways.
And I think for a business school, and President, I'll say this to you, but Norm will be already across this, one of the great things to study is minor league sports marketing, which I think is just always so phenomenal, creative, innovative. It's got so many things going for it. Chris, your thoughts on the ecosystem or the vertical of minor league sports?
Yeah, I agree with Dewan. We are in the entertainment business, and it's funny, we all work for sports teams, but we do very little sports work. What we do is all business related. So we have zero control over the team on the field with the Sea Dogs. I know it might be a little bit different for some of the other sports up here, but with the Sea Dogs, zero control. The Boston Red Sox set the roster. They move the players up and down. The Red Sox don't come and ask me for my opinion on the player and stuff like that. They don't care what I think. They're going to do what they want to do. What we do is we run the business operations. We sell the tickets. We sell the advertising. We create the promotions. We create the fan experience at the ballpark. And as we said, we look at ourselves as not the sports entertainment, but just generally the entertainment business. But even more specifically, we are in the memory-making business, where we want to go out and give someone a special memory every time they come out to the ballpark, whether it's a grandfather teaching his grandson how to keep score, catching a foul ball, enjoying your first Sea Dog biscuit, giving Slugger a high five. My favorite part is, our community presence and the fact that, we can have a partnership with the Make-A-Wish Foundation or Maine Children's Cancer Program and have these kids come out to the ballpark. And I remember one Make-A-Wish project that we did, and I overheard the kid after the wish was granted at the park. He was walking up in the stands, and he told his mom, "This was the best day of my life." And the fact that we were able to give him that opportunity, that's what makes what we do so special and our community so special. It is so much beyond the sport itself. It's about community involvement and making a difference in someone's life.
It's funny you mentioned the word entertainment, and we talked earlier about they make movies about minor league teams. So you've got Bull Durham in baseball, and you've got Slapshot in hockey, and that entertainment piece is a really critical part of this fabric of Portland, which is that almost every night of the year, and I'd imagine the four of you combined, there's probably a sporting event going on in Portland just about every night. Gabe, your thoughts on state of minor league sports, or how you see it from your chair?
Yeah, I mean, I think through the soccer lens, we're at an interesting point, especially at the lower division level, that it's so new, right? I mean, our league that we'll be joining only started in 2019. The league above us, the second division, is a little over a decade old. So a lot of growth, and this cultural relevance of soccer fandom that has just taken time in this country that is now finally breaking through, that we're taking advantage of, and it's largely driven by this younger, more diverse sort of craving culture and community audience that we have in spades here. That has been really fun for us to tap into. So it's a period of growth. It's a period of learning. Some of the big events coming to our country, these massive and magnifying events that are only going to continue to grow the sport. So, the one comment that I would make, I guess, in addition to that, in terms of the landscape, predominantly just for our own, is my gratitude to the group of gentlemen on this stage and their organizations for being helpful for us over the last handful of years as we've sort of joined the landscape here. We're doing everything for the very first time, and there's a reason why Portland is named number one. And you could probably make an argument. We're 72. All of a sudden, Hart shows up. We're number one. You do the math. But seriously, though, I think it speaks to the culture. It speaks to the character of Maine, of Portland, right? We rally around each other like nobody's business. And I think that there's a special piece of who we are up in northern New England. Everyone's here on purpose. And that special sauce creates this sort of outsized passion for things that are our own. And in this case, those sports teams, which is truly special. And we get to offer a really fun way to harness that.
Yeah, and I love that you don't see the other people here on the stage as competitors, but actually as collaborators in some way, because I think each of you has the ability to help the other, and it may not be clear to the public, but I think that ability maybe to call someone up and say, hey, I'm dealing with this is really nice. Adam, your thoughts?
Yeah, I just love that minor league sports are so community driven. We haven't had much success on the ice this year, but you still see the same amount of fans coming through the game. And I take pride in, even when we lose, you hear over your shoulder of somebody saying, yeah, but that was still such a great night. And I think that the beauty of minor league sports is not only the quality of sport, because now even since I was a kid, the sports has just become such a massive piece of various communities, and the playing pool and the pool of athletes has just gotten so large that the quality of sports has gotten so great that it's a great value to go out to a minor league team and to enjoy yourself. And the other piece that I love is that you're having a grandmother come out to watch. The only reason that she's at a hockey game is to see her grandchild sing the national anthem before the game on a carpet on the ice. And all of a sudden she finds out, wow, this is a really cool game. This is really enjoyable. And the access to players is totally different than Major League. We have autographs. We have an autograph signing post-game this Saturday where any fan that goes to the game can come get an autograph for any player. So the access to those players is really special as well. And just as far as Maine specifically, I love it just seems like a massive community where word of mouth and trust means a lot. I think the Mariners specifically had to work really hard to gain that trust back after the Pirates left. And it's just been really great to see the success of the Mariners and growing. And honestly, like you said, yeah, just being able to bounce ideas off the other teams in here. We're all rowing in the same direction, and I think that shows with the rising tide here.
Well, we were talking, you kind of make this comment about sports, and we were talking with a fan who came up to us. Ed has been a longtime Mariner season ticket holder, and sport touches people, I think, unlike almost any other product category. It's something that we become avid about, maybe a team or a player. A lot of us put posters on walls, or, we get into the statistics, and it's a product that is, instantly gone as soon as the game is over, and yet it stays with us in so many different ways. And Ed was talking about, I know exactly where my seat is, and I know, that my first date was in this seat, and kind of thing like that. And so it's special that way. I also think, though, and in your story, you talked about tourism, right? And David gave this great shout out to Maine tourism, and he said, on your license plates, since going back to the 1930s, it said Vacation Land. on the Maine license plate. And you actually gave a really nice shout out to Slapshot Session Ale. And so if you ever get a chance to see the story, is it online? Can people find it? If anyone's in the room, would there be an ability to, or is it firewalled?
Probably firewall.
It's probably
But
firewall.
as you said, there's six copies in the
There's
green
6
room.
copies
They
in
can't
there.
get to them.
Talk about the role that tourism plays in your rankings or in how you think about, because Maine is maybe a little less of a tourism state in some months and maybe a lot more of a tourism state in others, but how does that factor into your research?
Well, I think it factors in afterward. Well, first of all, there are 23 states in the country that have a specific grant program that teams or event operators can use to help lure events to their sporting events to your state or city. Maine doesn't have that, so that actually was a ding on Portland's record, because the other 23 states. I mean, you look at Florida and Texas; they're the gold standard for getting national governing bodies, NCAA events, because they've got money to give the rights holders. So that was a ding. But I mean, I know just from the previous 9 versions of the rankings that, and you all know that now, it's a huge asset. You can tell the world we were number 1. I got a text Saturday night, from somebody saying that they were walking through Dallas-Fort Worth Airport just Friday or Saturday night, and they said, "I'm walking through the airport," and the airport speakers said, "Hi, welcome to Dallas. This is Mayor, whoever the mayor of Dallas is. Welcome to Dallas. Recently voted the number 1 sports business market in America." So that was a different ranking than the minor league market. But I mean, that's in Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. So that's obviously, it's a matter of pride. And I would think it'd be a huge asset in marketing.
For sure. And a shout out to Sheila from the Sports Commission. We were talking with her earlier, and I think sports commissions all over the country do so much to bring major events and to support the teams that are there. I want to ask, I'm going to go back to you, Dewan, things about Portland that make you happy or encouraged about what you think the future still holds. And some of what's coming is technology changes, but what else?
Yeah. And then before I answer that question, I also want to just add to what we just talked about, and it's not to be looked upon or forgotten the fact that we're all associated with pro sports teams in Boston. And that's the uniqueness of where we are in our market. And that accessibility that Adam was talking about is not just about affordability, but it's also being able to have access to those aspiring stories, kids in the community wanting to touch a Kyrie Irving when he was here, whatever, or in our particular case, we have 2-way players coming down. In Maine, we give that opportunity to access the bigger sports names, and that to itself is also a benefit that we have. But, the thing for me, answering your question more directly around the quality of life is what I really enjoy about here, and I think in my position, and, when you talk about sports in Maine, and you go through and we all have our verticals that we're in, we know that basketball is probably the number 1 sport in the state of Maine, and so when we started the team back in 2009, we realized that and recognized that we didn't have to be over creative, we just had to deliver what people were expecting, and that's basketball at the highest level. But more so than basketball, to what Chris was saying here, was that it's the experience. And so whether we won or lost, we wanted people walking out saying, "Hey, that was a great experience, we're coming back." And just think, we didn't have to drive an hour and a half and pay $500 to go out and entertain our family when we only spent 60 and had a fantabulous time, And so for me, being in Portland has been great. Been here 20 years. The quality of life is like nowhere else within the U.S., and I've been all around. And the people, the community, really being able to own our teams. And what I mean by that is that the affinity, because of those Boston sports teams that are here, and the history that may exist, in our particular case, the Celtics, coming into Maine, we're tapping into that and we're making it accessible.
Tell the story about Jason Tatum and the other Celtic player after the shooting situation that connect the Boston Celtics to Portland.
Yeah,
Maine.
and that was the uniqueness I was sharing about where we are in recent times, and I've shared this, and what resonated for me last year as a brand in this community was the fact that in 2024 we all recognized, or it was 2023, the Lewiston shootings. And Maine was known synonymously for that around the globe. It happened to be 2 days before the launch of the NBA season. If you remember, if you watched the first Celtics game that season, the Boston team had Maine jerseys on. And when you talk about essence of being a community partner, we just recently been inquired of in 2019. Boston has completely embraced us. We're an extension of Boston. And immediately, we wanted to, as a brand, not say, look at poor us, but like come together and rally and make sure that people saw a different side of Maine and in essence, be there for our community. And the story that he's, where it really resonates for me is that what we do as brands, we support the community. And so in that particular essence, we were there for our community on a global level through the Celtics branding. People were able to see a different side. Fast forward 5 months later, we're in the championship game last year. And what people had known of Maine 5 months earlier had changed tremendously when you saw 2,400 people plus on a Monday night at our championship game rallying us as a team. And so the way I pretty much summarize that is that when our community needed us the most, we were there and still are there to be supportive. But in essence, in turn, 5 months later, the U.S., the globe, got to see another side of Maine coming out through sport. You know, and it was just tremendous to see that happen within a 6-month period, and goes to show you the power of sport in general, not just minor league, but sport in general, and how we can make a change in people's lives and be supportive of one another.
It may be one of the few things that we really can count on. Chris, things about Portland that excite you or keep you encouraged?
Yeah, it's the fans. I mean, we have a very passionate fan base here, and I look at our attendance numbers compared to our population, and to give you some perspective, in our league, we've got a population here in Portland of about 65,000, and then one of Richmond, Virginia, their population is 270,000, just right in Richmond, Virginia, not counting the greater metropolitan area there, which I think is closer to 1 million. Yet they only outdraw us by about a couple hundred fans. So the fact that, every year we are amongst the attendance leaders, and I think I can speak for, I think all of our teams are amongst the attendance leaders in our leagues, and yet we play in one of the smallest markets in minor league sports. I think that is a testament to the fans that we have here in Portland, where they are so supportive and passionate about their sports franchises. And I think they support us because we support the communities. Each one of these teams up here has really taken an oath to be invested into the community. I know when the Portland Sea Dogs came to town, we made it a point that we wanted to be more than just a baseball team. We wanted to be a strong, active, contributing member of the community. And hopefully we've made the community proud with what we've done over the years. Some of the things that we're most proud of is our partnership with the Maine Children's Cancer Program, which has raised over $5 million for the Maine Children's Cancer Program. And, certainly, DeJuan talked about, the Lewiston shooting. The day after that happened, we met as a staff. And actually, before we even met as a staff, when I came in the morning, I had an email both from the Red Sox and from Major League Baseball, and they're like, what can we do to help you guys? And so they partnered with us to help create several initiatives to help give back to the community, help with the healing process. Out of those initiatives, probably the one that I'm most proud of is our Deaf and Hard of Hearing night that we created as a result of that. And as many of you know, the deaf community was very hard hit by that shooting. So we held this Deaf and Hard of Hearing Awareness Night. The team wore special jerseys that had Sea Dogs spelled out in American Sign Language. We auctioned those jerseys off to benefit the Pine Tree Society. They had one of their director of interpreting services was one of the victims, and he had previously founded a camp for deaf children. So we had all the proceeds of that jersey auction go out to that camp, and we had his son throughout the first pitch. And when working with Maine's deaf community, we wanted to make sure we did this right, and we got their feedback. And working with Maine's deaf community, I learned something about baseball that I did not know before, and that all the signs in baseball, out, safe, et cetera, was developed by a deaf player back in the 1800s because he couldn't hear what the umpire was saying, so he asked them to start using signs, and they used sign language for out and safe and ball and strike, and the fans decided that they really liked that because they could, no matter where they were sitting, they could tell what the umpire was calling as well, and it stuck. And I thought it was just a fascinating story. So we gave out baseball cards with William Hoy was his name. So yes, and handed those out at the front gate to educate fans on his contributions to baseball.
What are you going to say?
Chris, two things that I don't think I've told you. Portland got extra credit because of your hard of hearing program. It's my methodology. I can do whatever the hell I want. So, so I'd forgotten about that. I hadn't told you that before. Another thing, talking about sea dogs and feeling close to the community. I was on a ferry on the way to the Isle of Iona off the coast of Scotland about 6 years ago. Far away from anything. It was a boat, a bus, to a boat, to a bus, to a boat, to a tiny island of 70 people in an old monastery my wife was singing at. And on the second ferry, there was a guy wearing a Portland Sea Dogs baseball cap. And I went over and said, "Portland Sea Dogs?" And he went like that. And then he went, "Oh yeah," because I fell in love with this logo online. And he goes, "I've got a T-shirt, I've got a jersey, and every once in a while," he goes, actually, he said, first 2 years, I thought they were in Oregon. But he said, but I check the scores online every once in a while just to see how they're doing. But yeah, he goes, I love the Sea Dogs.
We actually had people buying tickets thinking we are in Oregon, and we have to refund them because they are a little out of their driving range. So yeah, it happens.
One thing that
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one thing that's unique about the tourism business in Maine is that if you come to Portland, I mean, no offense to anybody to the north of us, but you really, nobody's passing through. So they come to Portland to come to Portland. Chris, you mentioned Richmond before. If you're taking a road trip with your family, you'd probably drive through Richmond on your way to some other city. So it's really with purpose that people come to Portland.
I thought people only came to Maine for LL Bean.
I guess Freeport's the north of us.
That too. I do think one of the advantageous pieces for us is just the strong brand of Portland and of Maine, right? We've talked a lot about just sports and the connection to the community and that it touches you here. So does the place that we live, right? So we get to be a very special part of that. And then just in recent years, sort of post-pandemic, just in terms of things that I get excited about in the future of our sense of place, the growth and the changing demographics, these people need something to build that sense of, attachment to our sense of place. That's what we can be, right? All of a sudden there's a team to support. All of a sudden you're building this community and meeting people that, maybe you don't have anything in common with other than, I met him at the Celtics game, right? I met him at the Sea Dogs game. So we become these community living rooms that, it doesn't matter who you are. Maybe you've lived here your whole life. Maybe you've lived here for a week. But then all of a sudden you have something in that common interest, that connective tissue. It's just a powerful human thing that touches you here that, builds that sense of, engagement and then retention in a state and city where, we have workforce development issues, right? We need to continue to provide opportunity for, people to work here and live and play and have a way to belong. And I think, so yes, there's a sports business element, but there's also, the future vitality of our city and state that we are, serving a purpose that's very needed, and it's fun to be a part of.
You bring us back to David, and the question of repeating is really hard. It's only happened twice in your 20-year history or by one city. What are the kinds of things that the city mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers have to be thinking about in terms of keeping Portland number one or staying in the top 10? What are the kinds of things that happen that, time goes by, the stadium gets a little older, the administration doesn't appear to change in Maine. It appears to stay in their job for 29 years. But what are the kinds of things that this community has got to think about if they want to stay at the top?
So the Hershey, Pennsylvania, Harrisburg area is the only one that repeated, and that was 2009 and 2011, I think. But I mean, just we've been talking about the dynamics of minor league sports. There's $580 million in minor league baseball construction opening this year. You want to talk about the power of minor league baseball? The biggest, most expensive new stadium opening in the U.S. and Canada this year is a minor league ballpark. It's a $140 million dollar ballpark opening in Salt Lake City. No Major League Baseball stadiums, no NFL stadiums opening. The most expensive one is minor league baseball. Soccer, $600 million in minor league soccer construction going on. So, I mean, you talk about what do you got to do to keep up? Well, that's one of the things. But just sort of like Gabe's saying, Portland was number one because of all the things we've said. But like Gabe said, it is the vitality of the market and the buy-in from both sides. We love you, you love us, and we're gonna keep elevating that love. We're gonna do great programs like the deaf and hard of hearing, and the corporate support. I mean, it sounds kind of cold, but you keep getting naming rights, right? I mean, if that's a corporate support, that's a measure of support on both sides. So that's really how you stay number one. But there's plenty of markets who also want to be number one.
I'm going to do a speed dating thing here where you have to give a really, really short answer.
That's not possible.
Yeah, I know. Challenge each of you faces. Give one thing that you think is a challenge for you going forward. Remembering this is a public audience and the media might be here.
Yeah, well, I just realized one about 5 minutes ago when you called us all institutions, that we're old and everything. But I think the challenge is just always trying to stay fresh and stay connected. The only thing consistent about, in my world at least, G League, but minor league sports in general, is change. And we have to be flexible because when you come into our arena, you might see one guy that was there last week, but the next night he might not be there, And so for us, it's all about having that flexibility and adaptability, but change.
Change. Chris?
One word, weather. Snow in April. Sometimes, the weather has such an effect on our business. When it's cold out, people aren't going to come. When it's raining out, people aren't going to come. We only have 69 home games to generate revenue, and if we have 5 rainouts a year, that has a significant impact on our business. So the weather is a huge part of what we have to deal with.
Dome.
Hell of a long one-word answer. Adam, what do you got?
I guess variety would probably be my biggest challenge because, as I mentioned before, you have a grandmother coming out to watch a national anthem, but then you also have a diehard hockey fan, and we need to do our best to reach all of those fans. So you have such a wide variety of fans that, or at least potential fans, that can come out to your games.
Gabe?
Yeah, mine's 2 words. Is that okay? Is it like staying power, I guess? It's not the most appropriate word that I'm looking for, but we're the new shiny thing in town. We haven't played a game. There's a lot of buzz, and I think come year 2, year 3, like how do we stay and continue to reimagine what we can be and continue to stay relevant? Those types of things.
David, I promised I'd come back to women's sports. How does women's professional minor leagues factor into your reporting or your data collecting? And to the group, I want to come back to how do we think about women's sports in this post-2025 era?
Well, there's USL is launching the Super League this year, which is going to be competitive to the NWSL. Not to say NWSL is a minor league in any way; it's a great product. But the KC Current, the highest level of women's soccer, opened the $118 million stadium in Kansas City last year. It's the world's first women's sports soccer-specific stadium. They also built a $40 million training facility. I mean, $40 million training facility is like a new minor league ballpark. So, well, back in the old days. But it's not minor league, but one of the projects I was most excited about that finally got completed last year was Oklahoma softball. They got a $60 million softball facility for college softball. Oklahoma softball is now the number 2 generating revenue sport at Oklahoma.
Right.
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. It's fantastic. So, yeah, women's sports.
Women's sports rocks.
The investment's only going up.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'll just jump in. I mean, we have plans to launch a women's club as well, which I think is incredibly important. I do have a clarifying question, though. Like, if we do a Super League and that's technically first division, are we no longer a minor league sports town? and then
I'll allow it. You're good. Yeah, NWSL is still going to be up here.
okay.
You know,
cool.
one thing that we did, stereotypical minor league thing, we did a sports bra toss. We usually do teddy bear toss, and shout out to Catherine, our director of marketing. And so we have this teddy bear toss where you throw teddy bears on the ice after the first goal. And we expanded that.
As opposed to octopuses.
As opposed to, I guess. And we expanded that to sports bras. We got connected with the Sports Bra Project. They're out of New York. And it's an additional piece of equipment that women need to buy that men don't, and it's a bit of a disadvantage. It can be very expensive. And that we tied that also in with our underwear toss. So again, you know, and I can understand there's hesitation from fans. There's hesitation from people that maybe don't go to events like that. They're like, what's going on? This seems really inappropriate. But as a community piece, we're trying to fill a hole. We're going to people like Preble Street. We said, what do you guys need? He said, well, actually, we need underwear the most. I said, okay, well, we'll do an underwear toss.
Nice.
And we also tied it in with the Sports Bra Project. So, and that's why I love minor league sports, is that we can do things like that and maybe push the envelope a little bit and help at the same time.
Probably one of the greatest photographs ever was Brandi Chastain after she scored the winning goal in the Women's World Cup and revealed her sports bra. You want to go, Chris?
Yeah, I want to take a little bit of a different angle on the women in sports, and you know, there's more than just women's sports leagues, but there's many ways for women to be involved in sports, and we were very fortunate to hire a female broadcaster, and Emma Tiedemann, was the second female in minor league baseball to call a game, and we're fortunate to bring her up to Portland. And then after her being with us for a couple of years, she hired a female assistant, and they made history as just being the second female duo in minor league baseball history. And minor league baseball has been around for a long time, so the fact that they were just the second female duo to partner together to call a game was incredible. And then last year, they took it to a whole new level. They became the first female duo to call a Boston Red Sox game,
Nice.
which is really amazing. And Emma is going to return to be calling a couple of Red Sox games this year, so stay tuned for more details on that. But we're incredibly proud of what she's been able to accomplish, and she's going to be a big league broadcaster someday. So there are many ways for women to get involved. And also, a couple of years ago, we had one of the first female coaches in all of minor league baseball with Katie Krall. So there's many ways for females to get into sports, and it's happening more and more frequently.
DeJuan.
For me, I can obviously echo everything here, but being a girl dad, obviously women in sports has been important to me my entire parenthood, I guess you could say. But when you talk about our league, we're very forward-thinking and inclusive work, and so you've seen, although it's a male-dominant sport, a lot of women being put in positions that were traditionally not in place. And so with the league, huge as far as the growth of the WNBA. But when you talk about in our marketplace, what we like to do is really align this month, women in sports. We're doing a dedicated night for that. We're also highlighting the women within our organization as well, to your point of saying there are more ways to be involved in sports than on the field, on the court, whatever it might be. And so that's a big passion of mine, is making sure we're inclusive as well and raising that awareness within our arenas.
Yeah, fantastic commentary from everyone. I want to go to a Q&A and give people a chance to maybe ask a couple of questions if you're brave enough. I know we stand between some of you going to bed or some of you going to the bar, but would love to see if anyone has any questions for our panelists or for David, who may not be back to Portland again for a while. So this is a great chance. The young lady over here on the left, that might be running a microphone to you, but I'm sure you could have yelled it out.
Thanks very much. My name is Michelle Linehan. I'm a new joiner of Maine. So pleasure to see everybody here, and thank you so much for this evening. One of the things I love about minor league sports is its affordability, which I think breeds the community that you all spoke about and the access and so forth. None of you talked about maintaining the affordability of minor league sports as a challenge, but I'm curious if that is, especially when we see the rising costs of going to major league sporting events, and if so, or if it's not, how is it that you continue to maintain the costs, the fees in an affordable way for so many different people from different socioeconomic levels?
It's a great question, and you're right to call the panel out. So do you want to go first, Gabe?
Yeah, I'll start. We set our ticket prices for the very first time. so maintaining that over time, we haven't sort of faced that challenge just yet. What I would say is it was important for us to, as we thought about accessibility, and I remember our head of ticketing pulling me into a room and it just basically asked one question: are we trying to maximize revenue, or are we trying to get as many people into the stadium? And we're thinking about sellouts, but also accessible ticket packages. And my answer was the latter. So apart from filtering decision making through how do we make this the most accessible ticket possible, and through an inclusive approach for people that still can't even afford the $16 ticket or $20 ticket, those types of things that's just how we filter decision making, and that will get challenging as we continue to exist, and cost of doing business goes up, and we look to the next phase of what Heart's going to be in town. So haven't quite felt the pressure of that over a longer period of time, but certainly focused, I think, more, especially being a new team, in sellouts and getting people who aren't familiar with what our game day experience is, and getting them in the door and allowing them to be a part of what we have going on here, and then letting our team president figure out the rest.
Yeah. Well, I can speak from the opposite end of the spectrum, 16 years in it, and it is a business, and as a business you have operational costs, and with those operational costs come pass through sometime that may need to take place in order to stay functional. And as I mentioned earlier, we're a community partner. And so a lot of it goes back to understanding what our community can also afford, and it's a delicate dance, because you can't give it away for free, but also at the same time, you want to keep the doors open so that you can pay your employees in order to provide that experience that we were talking about earlier. And so it is a delicate dance, and I think in today's world, and particularly with the price crunch on everything, raising a ticket, it's one thing if you go from, all right, if you're a $15 ticket and all of a sudden it's $75, yes, right concern. But if it's going from 15 to 18, oftentimes in our world it's very small and incremental, but that little bit helps us out. And believe it or not, sports franchises aren't that profitable, and particularly at the minor league level, and so it's not like we're raising money and having it go out the back door and everybody's getting paid very nice. It all goes back into our organization as well as community and all of the experiences that we're looking at having.
Yeah, and I'd add, it is a very delicate balance, and that's where sponsorships really come into play. We want to, and we are so lucky in this market to be so well supported by the business community as well. And so all those corporate sponsorships really help us maintain keeping our ticket prices low, so that we can continually make it this an affordable, attractive option for our fans. And we talked earlier how we don't really compete against each other. We try to help each other out. There is one area we do compete in, and that is corporate sponsorships, because there is only so much marketing dollars to go around. Like Hannaford may have a $100,000 sports marketing budget. Now that there might have been 2 teams, so they split it that way. Now there's 4 teams. So that's where we are a little bit competitive, is with the corporate sponsorships. But we are so blessed in this community. I think all of our teams are exceptionally well supported by the business community, and that helps us put on a good product and make it affordable for our fans.
Thank God, as David pointed out, there are 25 breweries in Portland, so you can get a lot of beer sponsorship here. Other questions? Anyone in the audience? Otherwise, I may do the old trick that I may call on the dean of the business school to see if there's anything we missed. Dean O'Reilly, what else would you want to ask about?
Sorry, thanks, Nick. I'd pick up on the sponsorship one, which is an area that I do lots of work, and you mentioned that's an area where you do compete. And so we wouldn't ask you maybe to give away any trade secrets. When you're talking to local businesses, obviously they want to support the community, but what do you do to help them then achieve their business goals that they want to do, and get them to come back and growing? We're also in a business community that's growing, right? Our market is growing, people are moving here. So talk a little bit about how you compete on that particular item.
Anybody want to go?
I'll take. I think as far as competing for the dollars, I think it's more so just discussions with the various sponsors, what they want, whether it is Hannaford that wants more foot traffic, or it's Nissan that just wants to be a part of a team and isn't really necessarily looking to move cars. And I'm not saying that those specific sponsors are like that, but it's having those conversations just like any other customer you would have is what are you trying to get out of this? And honestly, I think some things that we have seen, maybe not necessarily from a sponsorship side, but maybe more from a group sales side is, hey, we've gone to the Mariners game for 3 straight years for our company outing. We're looking to change things up. So we're actually going to the Sea Dogs this year, or vice versa. So you see that, which, ultimately, selfishly, you never want to give up business, but it is nice that you can sort of hand that torch off, where we sort of keep it in the community still, which feels good.
I'm going to, I think, wrap us up because I think we were only supposed to go an hour. So I'm going to ask each of the panelists if they might. Oh, sorry, question? The president has a question.
It's okay.
And they've handed him the mic.
Uh-oh.
A president with a microphone. Here we go.
So those who know me know I don't have much to say. So I'll keep it brief. Give me 15 minutes to ask the questions. No, I love this. This was fantastic, and I really appreciate everyone's and the passion for Portland, which I completely share and agree with. I moved here from Philadelphia 8 years ago and will never leave. I love this place. So my question is, we have a lot of students at UNE who are very passionate about sports. So we have a robust array of athletic teams, D3, and they do really well. By the way, our hockey teams, I think, is going to end up in the NCAA tournament. So there's a lot of passion around sports in our community. And now with this new center in our new College of Business, sports innovation, that's going to even be more so. So my question is, what advice would you have for students who are looking to pursue a career somehow in the business of sports? And it's a very broad business, I understand, not necessarily playing, but in the larger business. If you have a young person and they're interested in getting involved in doing something, what advice would you have for them?
Start down at the end.
Yeah, sure. I think I love having these conversations and just sort of I definitely don't always know what I'm talking about, but I have lots of ideas. Just a character that I love just in people, in general, from people is just curiosity, right? So, you're young, you're a recent graduate, you could be 10 years down the line, you haven't found what you want to do, right? You're going to have 3 or 4 jobs between then and now, maybe you find something. Having not a closed perspective on where you want to go, but the proactivity, the curiosity, asking questions. I think one of the things that I love to do, and I'm still young in this game, but it seems to be a common theme in all the clubs that I've spent time with. We love what we do. You don't always necessarily get paid super well for it, but there's that passion point. And the best organizations that I've been a part of, whether it's sports or something else, there's a massive desire to give back to the people that are coming behind you. So I would say, don't be shy, be curious, and advocate for yourself. It's remarkable how busy we are, and generally it's people that are working in our office are the people who annoyed me enough to the point where and then they were. I'm joking, but you can't be shy, right? You don't get what you don't ask for. And generally, people are open to having conversations, and if it's the right fit, then it's going to work. Or maybe it's not. It doesn't matter. Then on to the next, right? So.
When I hire people, I think the 2 things that I look for is work ethic and creativity. I think that those are 2 things that you can't necessarily teach. So I just look for hard workers. My wife is a midwife, so when she comes home and has a bad day at work, it is totally different than when I come home and have a bad day at work. Like, bobblehead snapped on the floor or something, and she's delivering babies. So, it isn't rocket science. It's not medical field, but at the same time, it is hard work. So, if you have the heart for it and you're able to put in the effort, and like I said, creativity as well. We talk about minor leagues and what separates you from the movies or from a trampoline park. There's things at a sporting event that you can't get elsewhere. So making sure that people are having fun and coming to the games, I think that's really important. But yeah, we've all been at the early 20s and looking to break into sports. So it's really a unique business, and I'm really looking forward to working with the students closer. We have a partnership with UNE now, and it's been wonderful. So just giving them some observations of what we go through on a daily basis has been wonderful.
Well, I don't work for a team, but I've done a lot of research on this topic. So I'll do a couple of practical matters. If you want to work in sports, start with selling tickets. Anybody at the highest level of sports business, college, major league, minor league, just about everybody started by working the box office or on the phone, making cold calls. You've got to learn how to sell tickets because that's what this industry is founded on. Number two, you're going to work your ass off. If you think you're going to work for the Red Sox and you get to watch the Red Sox games, you need to get a job coding or something because that's not the case. But I know a lot of people who've been in the trenches for 20, 30, 40 years, and they will tell you that they've never worked a day in their lives because they love this industry. And that's probably the last thing I would say is sports is a public assembly. If you don't like working with people, if you don't like working alongside of people who like working with people, your job is to make sure that everyone coming into your place of business has the greatest time in the world every single night. If you don't want them to have that, if you don't want to share that with them, then you're in the wrong business.
Yeah, President and Provost, I would say you have got a great dean, and by the fact that you have a business school, I think Dean O'Reilly is going to be able to teach people accounting and finance, which are really key, and decision sciences and entrepreneurship and marketing and management. And all of those skills go into, I think, what we do in the sports industry. It does all come back to sales. It all does come back to revenue and profitability and sustainability. And there are all these other bells and whistles. But we got 2 more people to go, and then I think I'm going to get this audience to thank each of you. So.
I'll just add 2 more quick pieces of advice. Number 1, network. The importance of networking is huge, and whether just go out there and make as many contacts as you possibly can, because you never know who's going to be able to help you out or open up a door for you down the road. Going out and doing informational interviews, just reach out to people in the industry. I know I get hit up all the time. I'm always happy to talk with students about pursuing careers in the industry. And secondly, it's going to sound simple, but it goes a long way, and it's something students can practice doing right now. They should be doing it right now, and it's the importance of proofreading. It's a highly competitive industry, and you'd be surprised at how many people submit applications with CDOG spelt wrong, or my name with Maine Celtics organization. When you have 500 people applying for your internships and you see that, then you automatically toss that one out and you move on to the next one. So don't eliminate yourself from the competition just because you didn't take your time to research the company and proofread your application beforehand, but you should always represent yourself as your best self possible, whether it's turning in your schoolwork or applying for a job.
The old joke is that NFL stands for not for long, and it's true if you make mistakes because we like to eliminate people.
Yeah, it's sort of like NBA, nothing but attorneys. Makes it hard, but so it'd be easy for me to regurgitate everything here, and it is simply that. It's like, as you're a young student coming out, and what I like to say is that advocate for yourself, but also have an understanding of where you want to go. Because when you get an opportunity to get in a room with us and apply for a job, the more you're able to articulate where you want to go, and it doesn't have to be the final decision, but a pathway in which you want to pursue. And then if your background, meaning the internships and the work that you've done, speak to that as well, then it's our job to figure out if we have a spot for you. And to the point of saying, all right, this is sports, but it's a business. And the one thing that I can tell you that always happens in my particular realm is the fact kids coming in and saying, I'm a huge fan, and they'll rattle off all the stats and everything like that. I was like, that's great. We don't hire fans. Because to your point that you made earlier is a work ethic, and we don't hire you so that when we bring, in our particular case, 2,400 people in the building, you get to sit down, have popcorn, and enjoy the game with them as well, too. And so just recognizing that it is a business, but I think I'll close with this in the sense of saying it's a business of dealing with people. And to the point of what you're saying, sales is the number 1 job. Yeah. I tell everyone when they join our organization, whether you're an intern or you're in marketing operations, you all sell tickets because at the end of the day, it's about relationship. And in particular in minor league sports. And so when we hire an intern that's in and they're known with our brand and all of the brand essence that we have, people might be like, you know what? Johnny works for the Celtics right now. You know, we should go see him at a game. So although you might not be selling a direct ticket as part of the ticketing sales group, when you join an organization and a brand that's around entertainment, everyone sells, and it's through relationships, you know. And so that, to me, is the biggest thing coming out, is understanding where you want to go, but understand that it's a people business as well, too.
David, we're all here tonight because of you, and if you hadn't been here, we could be watching bad television. But give us a summary statement. You were kind enough. The data suggested Portland's a good place. Closing thoughts.
You want to stay number one, keep doing what you're doing, but you got to keep doing it better. You mentioned television, and you talking about the glow that Durham's had from one movie 5 years ago. I'll go even further. The Toledo Mud Hens, still, the Klinger Nights, Jamie Farr Nights, that show hasn't been on in 40 years. MASH hasn't been on in 40 years, and they're still reaping the benefits of the glow of that. So your market is going to be glowing for a while, but there's plenty of markets coming behind you, you know, wanting to do the same thing. And because the methodology is indexed about how you did the past 5 years compared to today, against your population, against your economy, there's markets behind you that want to be number one too.
I'd like to ask each of you to give a big hand to David Broughton, Chris Cameron, DeJuan Eubanks, Adam Goldberg, Gabe Hoffman-Johnson. Thank you so much for you guys being here. Thank you to the university having the foresight to put together a Spark series. We are sure that the next one will not be as good as this one. But we thank you all for being here tonight. If you're a student in the room and you don't mob the panelists, you're going to lose an opportunity to create that networking opportunity. Dean O'Reilly, thank you so much. And Connor, a big shout out for you for all you did. Yeah, so we've been blessed to be with you tonight. Thank you so much for your time.